A father and a small son were out walking one day when the lad asked how electricity could go through those wires stretched across the telephone poles. "I don't know," said his father. "I never knew much about electricity." A few blocks further on, the boy asked what causes lightning and thunder. "You know what? That too has puzzled me," came the reply. The youngster continued to inquire about many things, none of which the father really could explain. Finally, as they were nearing home, the boy said, "Pop, I hope you don't mind I asked you all those questions." "Oh, not at all," said his father. "How else are you going to learn?" That little boy has something to teach us all. Allow me to explain. In the Gospel of Mark, Jesus makes predictions to the disciples about his suffering and death on 3 separate occasions. And they're all clustered rather close together in chapters 8, 9, and 10. We read the first of those predictions last week. Those of you who were here, maybe you remember, Jesus asks the disciples, "Who do you say that I am?" And then Peter blurts out, "You are the Messiah, the Christ." And with that, Jesus makes his first prediction unfolding what that Messiahship means: suffering, death, and rising again. Only to have Peter then turn around and rebuke him. Today, just one chapter later, we read the second prediction in this trilogy. Now, in the verses in between, Peter, James, and John have been witnesses to the Transfiguration, and the entire group has watched Jesus perform another healing miracle. All of which you'd think would be even more grist for the insight mill. Well, this morning, we meet the disciples again passing through Galilee with Jesus. And just as he did in the 8th chapter, Jesus says to them, "The Son of Man is to be betrayed into human hands, and they will kill him, and 3 days after being killed, he will rise again." Once the group has arrived in Capernaum, Jesus probes the nature of their arguments along the way, only to learn that the topic of debate was not the prediction, not how best to pick up a cross and follow Jesus, but rather, you read it, who is the top dog, the head honcho. You can almost picture Jesus shaking his head, wondering what will it take to get these disciples in gear. So with that, he takes a child, lifts it up, underscores the power of a wide-eyed, trusting faith. Good thing for the disciples, we think, there's still one more prediction left in chapter 10, and 3 times a charm, right? Well, spoiler alert, the disciples still don't get it, and they proceed not to for the rest of the gospel. They keep following as long as there's excitement and possibility in the air, but you know the story. In time, things get dicey. Jesus is betrayed, and then he's arrested, and his demise is certain. And then the disciples fall away. They're nowhere to be seen by the time Jesus' predictions come to fruition. So what's the matter here? What is missing in order for these disciples to embody the faith of a child? Well, no doubt there's more than one issue at stake. But I think a key problem can be found right here in today's reading. And it's something we can all relate to as we reflect on the challenge that is a life of faith. And it's all but hidden back in verse 32, right surrounded by the more dramatic aspects of the narrative. And I just read it. Listen again. But they did not understand what he was saying, and were afraid to ask him. Did you hear that? The disciples know they don't understand what Jesus is talking about, yet they remain silent in their confusion. They don't ask him a thing. But this silence is not golden, for clearly the disciples go on to draw the wrong conclusion about what it means to be a close follower of Jesus, because they start arguing not about who's the lowliest, but rather who's the greatest. And guess what? When Jesus makes his third prediction in the 10th chapter, you know how they react? They're still stuck on status. To be honest, the portrayal of the disciples, especially in the Gospel of Mark, is that they just never get it. And today we notice that when they're confused, they don't even ask. Now, it's certainly reasonable to me that the disciples wouldn't understand what Jesus' prediction meant. I mean, there's nothing in their life experience that would give them a framework to understand the Passion story. But why not probe? Why not ask about that which they cannot fathom? Why not engage questions that might lead to greater understanding and faith? The fact is, when it comes to matters of faith and meaning, the nature and even the existence of God, we all have questions. We all, at one level or another, have trouble understanding what God has to do with our lives, particularly when we have calamities or observe innocent suffering. But like the disciples, rather than engage and grapple such questions in the face of God and take our faith to task, too often we don't even ask. Some of our reluctance may have to do with the fact that discerning God seems so far beyond the realm of comprehension that the first inclination is to just let our questions go. I mean, how many of us have sat there in silence, nodding our head at a professor, explaining the answer for a second time, even though the concept is as clear as mud? I just got a new Prius a couple of weeks ago, and I have Bluetooth technology for the first time. The customer service agent, she looked like she was about 10 years old. She came and sat in the seat next to me, pushed some button, bingo! My phone is connected into the car's sound system. I wagged my head like I knew exactly what she was doing, but I didn't have a clue. I didn't even know enough to ask questions.